Friday, the final day of the week. These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edifications, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Elkant's Movie Club. It's Elkant's Movie Club. Elkant's Movie Club. It's Elkant's Movie Club.
See, I didn't realize that you could like customize avatars when you turn off your camera, and so I thought.
You also didn't realize I'm in control of this one.
Well, I know I did. I was
again.
waiting for you to do that. We are live on Stibbs TV. Here is El Kent. How you doing, Kent?
Hey, Kent.
I'm doing well. I escaped the police reporting hell about 2 hours ago, and so I'm doing well.
Good.
Any bizarre stories from the police beat? There usually is a good one every once in a while.
Unfortunately, no. They released their year-end crime statistics today. Yeah, that is a boring hour-long press conference.
How cool would it have been, Ken, if you would have been like, yeah, hey, so we have a report to do on gods from the middle of the earth coming up because the sacrifice was not delivered to them and they're taking over Lincoln. That would have been a story.
That would have been
a story, but we'd have been gone.
That's true. Yeah.
That is true. And of course, that's a reference to our movie this week. The Cabin in
indeed.
the Woods from 2011, a horror comedy film. And Stibbs chose this one. And well, Stibbs, go ahead.
Had you seen this before, Kent? You said you had, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This is a hard one to explain. It starts off, it kind of like we talked about earlier in the show. If you were listening at the beginning, we kind of mentioned it. It kind of tricks you into thinking that it's your typical teen slasher movie with the jock and the dumb blonde and the stoner and
Virgin.
And that's kind of exactly what it's meant to do. And you've come to find out that this was all choreographed on purpose by some higher power in order to appease the gods of the old world so they will not come and rise from their wherever they are down beneath in the core of Earth somewhere and take over the Earth again. And they do this over in numerous countries. They talk about how Japan has an undefeated record, how they always get their sacrifice in no matter what. And throughout the movie, it comes down to the U.S. The U.S. is the only one left, and so they have to get this done. They have to get everyone killed, all of these teens killed in order to appease these gods. Otherwise, the Earth's going to end. So it kind of takes you through your average typical horror kind of teen trope with they meet up, the stoner brings all the weed, they make their way to the cabin,
they have to stop for gas along the way.
They meet a creepy guy and you're all
at?
like, is this guy the killer? What's going on? And then they get there and they start drinking and some clothes come off and they start finding weird stuff in the cabin and all this stuff. And pretty soon there's a family of zombies that are trying to kill them out of nowhere and they can't figure out why.
There you go.
And don't forget the dudes in the basement.
The best part of the movie. So the dudes in the basement, Kent is mentioning, are the guys in charge of getting these people murdered. They have total control over the temperature of the cabin. They're able to squirt pheromone mists in order to get certain people in the mood for things if they need that to happen. They have cameras all over the cabin. They basically can control these people's every move without actually controlling the people themselves. And in the basement are all these old kind of knickknacks, antiques, weird stuff. And depending on which one they pick up and open or use or read depends on the way that they will be sacrificed. Because the quote unquote virgin of the group picked up this old diary, the diary was of this old girl who had gotten her arm chopped off for some reason. I don't remember exactly. You don't really need to know the story behind it, but because that was it, they were the ones that were sent to murder these kids at the cabin in the woods. And these people, the dudes in the basement, are definitely. I mean, there's some funny little like jokes here and there with the stoner and some other guys, but the dudes in the basement are definitely your comedic parts of this movie. They are phenomenal. And Bradley Woodford, and we figure out the other guy's name? Yes,
Richard Jenkins.
The guy, he's the dad in Step Brothers and many, many, many other movies. They are phenomenal, and by far my favorite part of the movie. They're dressed as businessmen, like they're just doing any other job. They show up in their office with their cup of coffee.
Yeah, it's like they're in a
talking.
It's like they're in a NASA control room, getting ready for a rocket launch.
Just hanging out.
They're releasing monsters.
Yeah, no big deal. We're just here to save the Earth. No big deal. But that's the weird kind of gist of how this movie kind of rolls.
You know, we've done the whole parody thing before, you know, with the Scary Movie, and Scream really was kind of a parody of the original, you know, slasher horror films. I just thought this was a more interesting twist on the stereotypical tropes of, you know, what horror films are. You have, as the director calls it, the whore. You have the jock.
Yes.
You have the stoner. You have the intellectual, and you have the virgin. And they all had to be sacrificed in a certain order, with the virgin lasting until the end, because isn't that the way every horror film works? As I'm watching this, I'm going, you try to figure out, okay, who's going to survive to the end? Well, of course it's going to be the virgin who survives to the end, because
the first one you meet, she's standing in her apartment.
Exactly.
It's the first, you know, she's the one that you're going to be following and rooting for.
She wants to study.
Exactly. Yeah, but that's the way just about all of the Halloween films, Friday the 13th, you know,
even Scream,
Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah. It's always that, you know, the virtuous female that is the one who wins in the end. And so to me, it was just funny to watch, you know, how they worked in some of these classic horror film, you know, images and tropes. But they did it in a much different way.
And to work to their advantage on the point that they were trying to drive home of kind of how kind of silly and ridiculous all those movies are in the first place.
Right. Because they are formulaic.
Yeah.
What do you think reason that works is because it's also an homage to those movies.
Yes.
Right? You could sit there, and if you were a big enough fan of them, figure out, well, this is a reference to this, and this is a reference to that, whether it's Scream or Nightmare on Elm Street or, you know, Halloween or whichever one of them you want to pick. There are references within that. And then it goes on and then takes it to this crazy land with the people controlling it from outside. So you've taken the cliche and taken it in a different way.
Right.
And that's really, really inventive. The interesting thing to me about this movie, another interesting thing, is it was actually made in 2009. And it was an MGM movie. And they were going to play it in 2010, in the early part of 2010. And MGM went bankrupt. And so Lionsgate bought it. And it didn't come out until 2011. Well, what happened between 2009 and 2011 was Chris Hemsworth became
Thor.
Oh, yeah.
So all of a sudden, you have this guy who's playing the stud role in there, the jock, who nobody knew anything of when they made the movie, is now a big movie star.
Oh, well, right? So it worked out to their advantage.
It worked out to their advantage, but it was because MGM went bankrupt.
You know. Oh, sorry, can't keep going.
No, that was it.
You know, I hadn't watched this movie in, close to when it was released. So almost a decade since I'd seen it. I had forgotten how much it involved early on, basically the puppet masters, if you will, I guess if we can call them that. For some reason, I thought the movie just kind of went right into the college kids, and eventually you learn over time, hey, something screwy is going on. I love how they introduce those people, where it's like
first,
they're
the first people you meet.
First scene, it's like, okay, interesting. I wonder what's going on here.
Why are they a part
of
this
And then they
story?
go to the college kids, and then they go back to the puppet masters, and it's really that first moment where they pass through the bridge and you can see something reflective going on when the bird smashes into it, and you're like, okay, this movie is maybe not what I thought it was. I just, John mentioned it. We've seen parodies before. We saw Scream. We've seen the Scary Movies. I just love this idea because it's so unique. And in a way, I'm watching it last night thinking, this is kind of ruining other horror movies for me because it nails all of the little bits about them to an absolute T.
And if you note, from 2011 onward, the number of those kind of movies has actually steadily declined.
Mm-hmm.
There's one or two a year. There used to be one or two a month, it seemed like, And I think this movie in part drove a stake through the heart of the thing, because it just showed how ridiculous it is, how formulaic it is, and how you can really make it look idiotic.
Yeah, you know what, too? I don't think that, we all had friends in high school. I don't really remember a friend group that was like the prude, the not prude, the jock, the nerd, and the stoner.
All those people have their own cliques.
Yeah,
right.
It's like so
you never saw it. Right, but at the same time, if you think about it, that quintet is, when I started watching, I'm like, this is Scooby-Doo. Think about it. Scooby-Doo, you had the jock, Fred, you had the nerd, Thelma, you had
the hot blonde or whatever.
The hot blonde,
who was not blonde, but,
whatever her name. I can't remember her name. And then of course you got Shaggy the stoner, and Scooby-Doo is a little different. But think about it. These are people from different walks of life that usually have their own cliques, but it always seems like in these types of movies, they come together like this.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. In real life, that doesn't happen. But in these horror films, it always seems like this is the way it is.
And the way that they use that kind of formulaic thing, like you were talking about with all the formulas of these other movies, to also drive home the point that not just the movies themselves are formulaic, but the whole time the stoner kid's talking about how they're being controlled. Everyone's like, it's the stoner kid, not, won't shut up about his weird, high theories. And the whole time he ends up being right.
Yeah. He was right. Yeah.
And he's driving home that it's more so not just about the horror movie genre, but life in general. They kind of drive that point home as well. It's they tie everything together just so well.
And the kid who plays a stoner is really good, I thought.
Phenomenal.
He
was so funny.
The coffee mug.
He's so funny. And when he's talking to himself, he keeps hearing the voices, and he's like, I swear to God, there's a voice in here.
Yeah.
You're not going to do what you're going to get me to do. I think I need to go for a walk.
Well, the thing that I had forgotten until I watched it is that a real-life movie star turns up
at the very end.
At the very end.
Yeah.
We won't spoil that part. We'll keep that one.
No,
I mean,
it's just like.
But it was perfect because when I saw that actor.
But you're really looking at something. You think, oh, this is your standard low budget horror movie, and then the more you watch it, you go, no, it's not. And then you get there and you go, somebody was really in on the joke.
Yeah. Yep. The part I enjoyed was when they finally get through and they figure out, all right, we're being controlled, and they find the elevator shaft and they actually break into the basement lair. Just all of the different, if you really watch, and you got to watch closely because there's, a lot of things are flying by at you, but just the different monsters and horror themed enemies that you have, because it's all meant to manipulate with your mind. And we've all had those dreams where we're being chased by something, that's like the little girl whose head is filled with teeth, and it just.
And there was a line of that girl that was helping out the puppeteers, if that's what we're calling them, the dark hair girl who was talking to that kind of new security guard, who was there for his first time. You could tell she said something about like, they're not nightmares. Like we don't create the nightmares. They've already been around type of thing, because this is all just ancient stuff. Yes. And it's like all the nightmares you have are because of us, because we've put them in your mind, because these things have been around forever. We've been doing this since the beginning of time. There's little snippets and kind of nuggets throughout the movie that, because they don't really answer the whole thing in general. You don't need to know it.
And it just ends.
Which is what's cool about it, is you kind of get to fill those in yourself and try to figure out where it all kind of started.
Yeah, and I think if you actually wrote the plot down, there's probably holes in it you could drive a truck through.
Sure.
But it doesn't matter, right? It does not matter. I think we also would be remiss if we didn't give a little credit to the creators, Josh Whedon, and who was the director? The name just escaped.
Drew Goddard.
Drew Goddard, who worked with him on Buffy, among other things. So these guys were at the peak of their form when they made this movie, and it turned out to be a big hit once it finally got out. And everybody's happy in the end, I guess. But weirdly for me, I saw it twice. It screened twice because I saw it when MGM was going to put it out.
Oh, wow.
Then I saw it again when Lionsgate put it out. And so this is the third time I've watched it, and it's still entertaining.
It is.
Name me another slasher movie that would be the case with.
Yeah,
and they also
hard to think of.
And they also released it in April of 2012.
So
it wasn't over near Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Which you would think would be counterproductive, but
because it's not really what it is. That's probably part of the joke as well.
And maybe it was part of that because at that point Hemsworth was the big star, so you capitalize on.
Or was it?
I would guess that factored in.
Yeah,
because 2012 was when the first Avengers came out, so he would have been on the heels of Thor, like right before things really exploded.
They were maybe trying to get him in between a couple of those.
Here's this guy that's going to be, have his own movie. He's an Avenger. Mm-hmm. And he's in my movie now.
Yeah.
Even though he was in your movie before.
Stibbs, you mentioned earlier in the show what your favorite or your funniest part. Before you say that, I want to say, I think the part that is so cool is the moment that they are in the elevator and they're realizing, and she sees the guy who was holding the little, he had
she goes, they made us choose
I think that is such a cool moment of just when it all just kind of comes together. So that's the part that what was that
along with when he hit the wall, when the motorcycle hit.
Oh my God.
And she just goes, she whispers to herself, puppeteers.
Yeah, that part.
Marty was right.
Great. I love that part.
It was great, but it was just funny.
The music,
it was hilarious.
They're building up to this heroic moment, and Chris Hemsworth's character hits the force field and tumbles down. Down the ravine.
So one of my favorite parts is a lot like that because it uses the juxtaposition of the horror flick that you're kind of half in, because they do a great job of making that part of the movie seem real.
Yeah.
The zombie things are terrifying. The music's perfect. They do a great job of making that look like an actual horror film. And then the juxtaposition of the comedic relief of the guys downstairs. So my favorite instance of that is when they think that they've got it done, and they decide that, the virgin doesn't have to die as long as she's the last one. And so they had just gotten the last guy dead. The dude in the RV is cut his throat, whatever. He's drowned. She comes up, and they're showing her. All of a sudden, the giant big zombie guy comes walking down the pier to kill her, and it's just this real terrifying thing of her, him getting down and about to do this, and out of nowhere, REO's Speedwagon just drops right as he hits his and they're just
partying.
As soon as you are able. And I lost it in the theater by myself the first time I saw it. I'll go back and just watch that scene every once in a while.
Funny.
Because what they do is
so good.
They switch back to the basement and everybody's partying, they're toasting each other.
Tequila.
And I found myself watching the screens in the background.
You're just getting strangled
of the woman getting
to REO Speedwagon.
Great part.
And then that whole scene, then Bradley, whatever, is talking about, they're talking about how great the whole thing was, and they take bets on which monster is going to be the one to kill him. And they're talking about how cool those were, and his fascination with the merman throughout the whole movie is so good. And then the callback for him to get murdered by the merman is so fun. But his face when he goes, I just think it would have been better with a merman. He's like a little kid just dying to see this monster.
I just wanted it to be a little bit more perfect. The elevator when there's suddenly blood's getting all. That was the moment. I thought John would like the movie, but as I'm watching it last night and the blood's all over the place, I'm like, John just has to be cackling right now.
It is. There are so many times where I was laughing. I guess it's probably the fourth or fifth time I've seen it. And there's still parts that still make me laugh out loud or chuckle out loud. Well, God, that is so genius.
You got this hallway filled with elevators and blood is everywhere. And all you hear is another ding, door opens, giant rat flies out, ding, werewolf, comes running out, starts chewing on people. Should mention, by the way, you talked about callbacks.
I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say.
Well, the studio that did the special effects was part owned by Heather Langenkamp, who is the actress who plays the heroine in the Nightmare on Elm Street films. So she's a veteran of those types of films.
That's
her
genius.
company was the one who did all the special effects.
The other callback I like is at the very, very end after he kills the certain person and the world's about to end.
Yeah.
They're sitting there smoking that joint at the bottom of the steps, and he looks to her and goes, I don't think whatever the guy's name is, I don't think Chad even had a cousin, because they were going to his cousin's cabin. And he's like, "Why do you have a cousin?" So like they were fooled from the very beginning. They'd been brainwashed by this whole organization. It was so funny.
And without giving, the ending is so perfect because it's the opposite of every movie ending like that that you could think of. Right.
And I walked out so happy because of that. I'm like, they didn't fall into the usual, like, well, we'll give them what they want crap. They did what they wanted to do, and it was perfect.
Yeah. I love this line from Taylor on the YouTube page. He says, how hard is it to kill a bunch of 9-year-old girls?
Yeah.
But over in Japan.
Yes, because the 9-year-old girls in Japan, they defeat they defeat them, and it's how hard is it to kill a bunch of 9-year-old girls?
When he says that, and then they're showing the scene on the television screen of them like exercising that demon,
singing,
and the Richard Jenkins guy is looking at the screen, he's going, F you, F you, F you, F you, all these little 9-year-old girls. So John said there's a reason why you think
Well, yeah, of course.
Can I guess?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it because the stoner's the hero?
Yes. I figured everything out. As soon as I saw him come back, we thought he was dead. As soon as we saw it, I'm like, of course. Yeah. This is why Stibbs likes the movie, because the stoner ends up being right.
His quips were, and he was
He's
great
very
in
fun.
that
When
movie.
He was great. And when he comes back is yet another horror movie trope flipped around. Because usually it's the bad guy, so to speak, that dies and comes, you think is dead and comes back.
Right.
This flipped it around the other way. I mean, these guys were really clever.
They were
very clever.
Yeah. They've watched every horror movie ever. They knew exactly what to do.
I knew I liked it. I forgot how much I liked it. I told everyone I knew to go watch that movie because not many people did.
Yeah.
It was probably my favorite movie of that year. It's a phenomenal flick.
It's very fun. And it's on Hulu.
It is. It's on Hulu, and check it out. The Cabin in the Woods. Funny stuff. Really, really funny and clever funny as well. So
my turn.
Who's next?
My turn. So I had 2 movies written down. I'm going to save one of them for another time. I'm going to go with a movie that I've seen. I'm guessing we've all seen it, but for me, it's been many, many years. But Denzel Washington had a new movie come out this week or over the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
And so I've seen his name a lot on the internet just because of that new movie. I'm going to go with Training Day, which is available on HBO Max. I've seen it one time, but I was in high school.
I don't think I ever did.
Awesome.
All my friends did, and I'm trying to think.
Really?
If I did,
he got the Oscar for that, didn't he?
Yeah. Him and Ethan Hawke. A rookie cop meets a corrupt Los Angeles narcotics officer who wants to include him in his schemes. Let's go. Available on HBO.
Good. I mean, it's really, really good.
I was young when I saw it, so I'm excited to see it now as an adult.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since.
It came out in 2000. So.
Whenever it came out on cable, and maybe even long after that. Actually,
it's been a while.
It has been a while. It's been quite a while.
All right.
So there's your movie club this week.
Cabin in the Woods, for those wondering who joined us.
Go watch it.
Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the Woods. So, Kent, are you excited about covering Nebraska basketball again?
Are they ever going to play again?
They're in East Lansing. They've arrived. They're ready.
I'm not, thank God.
Will you watch anyway?
Unclear. Depends on if I have anything else to do. I will. What I actually do, this is a true fact. A game like that, I will record, and then you can sit down and watch that game in about 45 minutes.
Yep.
And that makes it go a lot quicker than watching Wisconsin play basketball.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, it does.
Yeah. That's probably the best way to do it. And, especially for Husker fans, if you can tell it's really not going to go well, you can just hit the stop button and move on to something else. Well, there is the Cabin in the Woods, this week's movie club selection. Next week, it's Training Day. Kent, have an enjoyable weekend, and we'll look forward to next Friday.
when it's going to be really, really cold.
Hopefully the end of that.
Yeah,
I hope so. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed indeed. All right, Kent, take care. We'll see you next week.
Later, Kent.
There he is, Kent Wolgamott of the Lincoln Journal-Star.
Greg and Lincoln points out, says, let me point out that John enjoyed a movie Stibbs picked.
I knew he would.
It took a while. I think there was one other one. I can't remember off the top
You
of my
would
head.
have
The
liked
platform.
Bernie, but you I don't think you ever watched Bernie. You were gone.
Yeah, there was one other one that you picked that
he didn't hate.
Yeah,
It was
that he
good.
didn't hate. I don't
No,
remember
this
what it
one was very good.
very
It is,
enjoyable.
yeah.
Are you a horror movie fan?
I'm okay with them.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
love
say-
the classics.
I like
I
a
would-
good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate a bad one. I really like a good
I'm
one.
the same way.
I thought Nightmare on Elm Street was great
Mm-hmm.
because it was a little different.
Do you like the first Halloween?
You know, I don't know.
Slow now, but I still really enjoy the first
I don't
Halloween.
know if I've seen it start to finish. I think I've
Really?
always caught it in bits and pieces.
I don't know that I have either. I liked Rob Zombie's remake. A lot of
I never
people
saw
didn't.
that one.
It was good.
Yeah.
I love Scream. You know, you mentioned Scream. I think Scream is very, very good. It's very creative. Like this one, it hits on a lot of the right notes of like the genre in general. And that one's very funny too. Scream is
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Plus, who is the director of it? He's the guy who did Nightmare on
Is that
Elm
Wes
Street.
Craven?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I thought that was kind of cool that he kind of recognized like, oh yeah, we're always doing
We're just
a
having
bit.
fun.
We're always doing the same things.
Yeah.
All right. More to come, including predictions
One
will
Beer
be
Friday.
and One Beer Friday.
Mm.
All ahead on 1620 The Zone.
Hey everyone, Josh Peterson here for my friends at the FanDuel Sportsbook. I want to remind you that they have the perfect way for everyone to get in on the action on Sunday. Of course, Stibbs, you know what I'm talking about. Big Game Bingo. You can claim your free Big Game Bingo card right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. The card automatically fills up as you're watching the game. So once you filled up 5 squares in a row, all you have to do is call bingo to claim your share of $100,000 in prizes. That's right. FanDuel is giving away $100,000 in prizes for free. FanDuel is the exclusive home for Big Game Bingo, and your card is waiting for you right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. The app is so easy to use and takes less than 2 minutes to sign up. There are more ways to win on FanDuel during the big game, but there's no excuse to miss out on this one. Big Game Bingo, perfect for everyone. You can win your share of $100,000 in prizes, and it's absolutely free to play only on the FanDuel Sportsbook app.